Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Friday, August 15th, a little after 5 o'clock p.m. Markets are closed. The final trades of the week are done, and this is our recap video and distribution guesstimate for Roundhill funds, QDTE, which is all of these are covered call strategy ETFs. The first three are on indexes, and there's 0DTE trade strategies. Next is XDTE. The first one was on the NASDAQ 100. Next, XDTE on the S&P 500. RDTE on the Russell 2000. And then we also cover YBTC, which is a weekly pair like the others. It is a covered call strategy. They don't make 0DTE trades, and they're not on an index. They have synthetic positions in CBTX and IBIT, and they sell weekly calls off of them. I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1. Each trading day in the morning, I will post the trades that were made in the 0DTE funds. So they make those trades pretty much first thing in the morning, and then they put that out within 15 minutes of the trade, so I can get that to you quickly in the event you are looking to trade with them, or if you're just looking to keep track of how your investments are doing throughout the day. And I also post when distributions are announced, when videos are premiering, and all kinds of good stuff, all related to this ETFs, right? That's hence the name. So we'll get right into it. Easy to make the video nice and early when things are down, because we know they didn't go through any of their sold strikes, so we don't have to wait around to calculate anything out. Just wanted to point something out. Each and every one of the Roundhill funds beat the underlying index that it trades off of. Right, so the NASDAQ 100 was down a little over 0.5%, where QDTE was down 0.4%. S&P, or the SPX, was down 0.29%, where XDTE was only down 0.19%. Russell 2000 down a little over 0.5%, where RDTE was down 0.4%. And then we have CBTX down 0.89% and IBIT down 0.88%. YBTC only down 0.2%. The reason being on all of these is because they sell covered calls. So when the underlying is down, at least on these 3 0DTEs, that just means money coming in above and beyond just the natural. It's going to move down with the other because it's going to kind of mimic it. But then if they bring in some money that obviously the NASDAQ 100 or the S&P wasn't based off of a trade, so that's why they lose a little less. Same thing here on YBTC. They had covered calls that were already in the money, so they were looking at having to spend a bunch of money in order to close those out, whereas it seems like these the underlyings dropped back to the point where those strike prices were below, or those share prices were below their strike, helping them to win those trades. It all just depends on what time they made their trades. So let's take a look. We'll start at the beginning, and again, of course, since it's Friday, we make our payment distribution guesstimate for next week. QDTE this morning sold calls, 360 of them at 23,830. They collected $15.13 a share, or 544,000. When we take a look, 23,830 was the strike price. 23,712, not even close. So nothing to close it out. Keep all of it. So for the week, they survived that $2.5 million loss on Tuesday, and they turned it into a positive for the week. Not anywhere near enough to pay out the distribution. It came out to about 3 cents a share, but at least they made some money. Now, with these Roundhill funds, there is a week delay. So the money made this week does not go into next week's distribution. It goes into the following. So that's why I keep the previous week available, so we can talk about that. And when we look at how QDTE performed last week, they got their teeth kicked in. They lost $3.6 million. All right, so when we come over to the holdings page, we look at their income. That comes out divided by the shares to a negative 15 cents, so that won't be the distribution. Next up, I take an average over the recent payments. Generally, I go by about a month. Sometimes I'll include more, and that's about 23.6 cents. The most recent, which you should have received in your account this morning if you have QDTE, was 23.9. I upped it to 23.75 cents, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if it goes a little higher. Only reason I'm not, I would want to increase it a little bit, for the reason being, if you noticed, Roundhill has decided to pick a fight in the media here lately with yield max. So I got a feeling they're going to want to up their distributions to try and draw people in. But on the other side, they lost $3.6 million in the week leading into this, so I don't know how much they can safely up it. So my guess is 23.75 cents. Also basing that on the 30-day IV of the underlying, the NDX dropped to 14.6%. So there's just a lot going against giving out a high distribution. So it's still going to be between 30 and 35%. So not too bad, obviously. There's $856 million assets under management within the fund, 24,290,000 shares. The most recent was a decrease, and I think we're going to see another decrease, because if you notice, we went from selling 367 contracts to yesterday 364 to today 360. So let's see what. Oh, okay, never mind. It's already decreased. I think I had a decrease over here, and I might have erased it. So, but in any case, so maybe not. Looks like these are our holdings for now. Anywhere from September 19th of this year to September 18th of next year, deep in the money, like to the tune of 20,000. All right, so we will find out on Wednesday, and realistically what I've found is after 8 o'clock on Tuesday night on their website, you are able to see the distributions. So next we go to XDTE. Today they sold calls at 6,480 on the SPX, 651 of them, collecting $4.08 per share, $265,000. SPX closed at 64.49, well below the 64.80. Doesn't cost anything to close it out. Full profit of $265,000. They almost made it back from their loss on Tuesday, but not quite. They lost $175,000 on the week of selling 0DTE calls. But we're looking at last week, and last week again was a rough one. They lost $1.3 million trading in the previous week. Divide that out by the 9.4 million outstanding shares. That's roughly a 13.8 cent negative. So that doesn't really work for our estimate. I took the average of the last month, and it was about 25.3 cents. Last one was 24.9. So I think they're gonna go over 25 in this whole little war with yield max, but I don't think by very much, since the IV went down, they lost money. And I did look at, so if you look at how the week was on QDTE, realistically it's basically flat. I mean, obviously there was highs, you had your distribution in there, but you go from start to finish on the week, it was a change of 0.03%. So no reason why they won't pay the same thing they paid the previous week when the fund is sitting at the same starting and ending point. XDTE, very similar. It's actually up slightly, up 0.33%. So that's why I figured they could nudge it up just a little. 25 sounds better than 24.9. Okay, assets under management, 418 million. We already talked about the outstanding shares. Slight decreases today. We'll find out on Wednesday what the declaration is, and you should have received just about 25 cents a share in your account this morning. unless you've got one of those accounts that makes you wait till Monday. We've got our deep in the money calls, amounts of contracts in each. Obviously, they're worth tons of money because they're so deep in the money and long dated. All right. Next, we have RDTE. We'll look at the trades first. They sold 642 calls at 23.05 today, collecting $238 per share, 152,000. The Russell 2000 ended at 22.86, well below the 23.05. Doesn't cost anything to settle. Full profit on the day, 152,000. But they got wrecked on Tuesday and Wednesday, and no chance of recovering, collecting 100,000 at a time. So they lost $2.3 million on the week, or 56 cents a share. So that's going to be a rough one. So not this coming week, but the one after that. I've got a feeling we got a rough payment coming. But as far as the guesstimate for next week, it's based off of last week. They lost $441,000. Divide that out by the 4.2 million outstanding shares, and it's roughly a 10-cent per share loss. The average for the last 4 weeks was 29.3 cents, but most recently they paid 31 plus cents. That's what you should have received in your account this morning. 49% annual yield based off of today's closing price. So that's a moving number since it's based off of the closing price that keeps on changing daily. So I think even though their average is 29, they broke 31 last time. Again, with this whole war, I think they're going to try to keep paying 31 cents. Also looking at how the fund performed over the week, a little bit above flat, 0.2%. So looks like they're going to try and, I think they're going to try and keep paying out this over 30 cent to try and win this little war with Yield Max. But we'll find out on Wednesday, August 20th. There's 147 million in assets under management. We've got our deep in the money calls here. Notice these strike prices generally aren't ones that you and I have access to. They're called flex options. That actually is the strike price, $241.92, for example there. All right, so RDTE, the highest annual yield payer out of the three index funds. And then last we go to YBTC. They're on a slightly different schedule. They declare on Tuesday, not Wednesday. They do not show us their trades. I don't get access to their intraday trades, so I don't get to see what they collected for it. But we do get to see, what they have and where it's sitting. So yesterday would have actually been your payday where you received 34.2456 cents per share. You'll find out what your declaration day will be Tuesday, Wednesday will be X day, and then Thursday will be payday. There's $279 million in assets under management. There was an increase in shares yesterday of 140,000, bringing it up to 5,840,000 shares. You see they increased their synthetic on CBTX by 24 contracts and also increased their sold covered calls by 24 as well. I don't know if I updated. Nope, 27, 67, 15. 27, 67. For some reason, that one doesn't update. 0.89. The others do, but that one doesn't for some reason. So, with that being said, both covered calls expiring today ended out of the money. So at one point we were looking at paying millions and millions of dollars to close these out. So fortunately they didn't panic. They at least let them make it into today. We just don't know at what point they closed them out. Let's see. So CBTX didn't really drop until later on in the day. So hopefully they waited. Same thing with IBIT kind of started out above break even and then dropped. So if they panicked at the beginning of the day, then they paid to close them out while they were in the money. If they waited, then they made out great, probably closed them out for very cheap, and then went ahead and sold the new ones. So we won't have access until I won't be able to get the info to you until Monday on what next week's strike prices are. But overall, I mean, they did great picking these strikes and then holding to them, because they were way in the money, and most people would have probably panicked and closed them out. I think even in my videos I was saying I wish they were more actively managed, where they would have closed these out, but they didn't. And look at that, the professionals knew better than the YouTuber. So okay, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. I got a bunch more videos coming up this weekend, and I also have a Spaces with Ambassador of Quan, if you guys are into any of that stuff, where we'll be talking about Ulti. But I've got Ulti videos coming. I got some other videos. I got my personal trades video that I make every weekend. So, and then I had Market Watch up here. This is what I use to look up the 30-day IVs. I just forgot to talk about it. So, okay, have a good one.